Hey, I wonder if it's coming through the Yeti.
Hello, testing, 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
That over there. The hardware. I didn't realize it, but there's a microphone in the camera, and I had been using it instead of my Yeti for a little bit. I was like, this does not sound near as good as I'm used to it sounding. But now we're good. All right. Sorry, I kind of cut off the middle of our conversation, but we'll go right back to that. That is interesting.
But yeah, I mean, Netflix, Hulu, and HBO are coming out with like some really good like documentaries and stuff like that.
It's been a resurgence of them lately.
Yeah, and I've always been a guy who enjoys documentaries and stuff like that. Like we watched the Hulu, the Fire Festival.
Oh, those are both so good.
I haven't watched the
Netflix
one, but we did Hulu, and it was, I'm like, oh my god, Ja Rule still hasn't even surfaced after all that.
No, I think he's trying to do another music festival from what I heard. People will jump on board, man. There's something about celebrity that people they buy into that hype so much, and what I think is like, the Hulu documentary is set out more like a straight up news expose, but it really compromises itself by focusing so much on Billy McFarland. Mm-hmm. The Netflix one is actually produced by Fuck Jerry Media, which were the advertising firm that was responsible for promoting Firefest in the first place. So they've compromised themselves in the documentary. So it's like neither side is all that ethical, but they're both so fascinating, and they approach it from totally different positions.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we could talk about. And like I said, you can, if you and Derek talk about something more that gives you and Derek ability to talk about something more time-pressing, because, Fire Festival, Abducted in Plain Sight, Ted Bundy are all relatively, within a
couple weeks or whatever. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I know you don't want to, have a planned thing to talk about. But
did you know that? Did I tell you that? I'm just going totally off the cuff.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I remembered you saying something about that. Like, this is totally just two guys shooting the shit.
Yep, for sure. So, hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Jeremy, and this is my new interview series podcast. I think I'm going to call it Be Candid interview series.
I like it.
I think that's what I'm going to go with. I might change it at the last minute. Welcome back to the show, Robbie Rawls.
Hello, everybody. Great to be back.
I say back. I guess it's the first time on the show, but definitely not the first time we've hung out.
On this show. But
yeah. So what's up, man? How you been?
Been doing pretty good. Working, trying to keep up with all the movies, games, and TV shows and documentaries and stuff that have been coming out, which very hard to keep up with everything.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's just going to get harder too. Apparently, the main guy that was responsible for running HBO just now quit. He didn't like the way that Time Warner was handling the company, so he stepped back, and this is the guy. This is the guy. This is Sopranos, True Detective, Game of Thrones, everything that we love.
At least this is the last season of Game of Thrones, so we don't have to worry about them messing anything up with that, because that's where my heart truly lies.
I know that, man.
Is Game of Thrones, and we're a month away, and I actually left my wife and a bunch of friends at the house, and we're rewatching season 7 before the new season comes out. Shout out to my Game of Thrones homies.
Yeah, man. So, and you shared the calendar, the countdown clock, and I've been watching it.
I was like, every time I see it, I'm like, I know it's super far down on my timeline, but every time it pops up somewhere, I'm just like, reshare.
Might as well.
Why not? Just so everybody knows how much longer they have to talk to me and have a normal conversation without Game of Thrones.
That's not going to be totally based in Game of Thrones.
Everything else is going to be Game of Thrones,
So, man, there's a bunch we can talk about. But while we're on the subject of Game of Thrones, are you a book guy or are you a show guy?
I started out a show guy. Our friend Zach is what really kind of drew me into Game of Thrones. Actually, Casey McClendon, Casey McClendon Eckert, he's the one that got me on. We worked together at McDonald's like years and years and years ago. We actually both now work at Panera. But anyway, he was like, we were talking about it. I was like, that sounds like a really cool show. And he was like, well, I got the first season on Blu-ray, so he let me borrow it. And I got to the really close family scene where...
Oh, in the first episode?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, well, I was like, is this what this show is about? I was like,
are you in or are you out?
I've heard such good things. I'm just gonna push through the family drama a little bit. Got through it, and that first season, and after that, I fell in love, and been watching it ever since.
Yeah, it's by far the best TV series.
It is.
I mean, it's hard to compete with something that's just got so much lore and so much of a budget to make it look so cinematic.
It's beautiful. It's beautifully done. Like I said, I got the first 2 books. I'm getting ready to work through and start reading them because I did that with Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. I'm on the Goblet of Fire right now.
Okay.
I've been like burning through some Harry Potter. And after that, I'm gonna burn through Game of Thrones.
Good luck, man. I have a Song of Ice and Fire, or Game of Thrones. Excuse me, the first book, and I've read into it. Maybe I just don't have the attention span that I used to.
The books are always harder. I found that the Harry Potter books, because there's so, and I know Game of Thrones is the same way, where there's so much more added to it. But like Harry Potter, the way she tells the stories in the books makes it interesting. Mm-hmm. I think with that first book, The Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, it's hard to get into. Like once you get past a certain point in the book, because I've started and stopped 2 times.
Yeah, they have to set so much shit onto the board at the beginning,
and that is the hardest part. But I think that once we get past a certain point in the book, then it starts getting better.
It's like the runner's high.
Exactly. Because I know Zach talked about it, like, as he read the books and everything like that, like he was always talking about them. They're so good. And I was like, it's like work to get to that point.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have the time or the attention span, I feel like, to really sit down and like get past that part. So that's why I've started and stopped like 2 different times.
It's content overload.
It is.
To what you said, man. It's like, how are you going to spend that bit of time that you have? Are you going to dive into this show that one of your best friends has been saying, you got to watch this show?
Exactly.
Are you going to sit down and read? Are you going to play games? Like, are you going to hang out with your wife or girlfriend or, significant other? So there's just always some sort of distraction,
And I've gotten to where, and this has kind of helped a lot, is as me and Holly are going to bed, I'll put Audible on and I'll listen to I'll put a 10-minute timer on it.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I'll listen to 10 minutes of the book at night, and I usually listen to 5 or 10 minutes of it in the morning while I'm heading to work. So I usually get 20-25 minutes a day of a book, which you can cover a bit of it. It might take you a month or 2 to finish
but you're
a book,
making your way
I'm
through
slowly making through. And I think that's what I'm going to do with Game of Thrones. I think I'm just going to buy the audiobook
version
and listen through, because I have tons of books on Audible, and that's the way I read my books now. I don't have time to sit down with and open it.
Yeah, right. So that's interesting to me. Like, you set it for 10 minutes. This shows that I've never actually used a fucking timing setting on Audible, but it's going to cut off right in the middle of the sentence. If that's what it's set to, it's not going to put a bow on it.
One thing that I always do, because, there's been times when I've fallen asleep like 8 minutes in, but like if I've listened to the book and I didn't fall asleep at the end of the timer, I just hit the rewind button once, which takes it back like 15 seconds.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And so, you might hear the beginning of that sentence
Same
again,
sentence to know where you're at. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So, I've tried to perfect it. Like, I found 15 minutes was too long. The 8-minute timer was too short because I'd be still...
8-minute timer. I'm too OCD for that. That's like, it would have to be 5 or 10.
Well, see, that's why, you have a custom. You have, I think it's 8, 10, 15, and then on and on.
Okay.
I found like 5 minutes is just not enough time for me to get into the book.
Yeah,
But like
of course.
anything like 10 to 13 minutes is good. And you have a custom timer where if you want to do 7 minutes or if you want to do an odd whatever number, you can. But that's pretty much how I've been doing it. Timers, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it sounds cool. I mean, it sounds like a smart way to consume it. I literally have the paperback, and I was like, don't even know how to use these things anymore. I'm like all opening it weird.
I mean, lunch breaks you can do it, but like during the day, like I'm usually always doing something. You know, I don't have an hour to 2 hours just to sit there and pop open a book. I feel like my attention span again, like if I'm playing video games or watching a movie, you know, I could just sit back and not have to think about it.
Yeah, it's more of a passive kind of experience, especially watching movies. I think that's a big difference in it. And I've kind of become I feel like I'm like a scholar on Westerosi history and shit because I watch the histories and lore, but that like I'm not one of the book guys. I'm super familiar with the show. And I'm really excited to see how it all plays out.
Me and Holly are too. She's the one that when a trailer drops, she goes to, I think it's Operation Awesome or something like that, and it's a guy who's very good about breaking down
Emergency Awesome.
Yeah, Emergency Awesome.
That's right, Charlie.
Yeah, and he goes through and he breaks things down, and like some of the stuff he's like, all right, you look, there's a little imprint on the wall there, and he comes up with something like eccentric over that, and I'm just like, you know, the way he sees it is amazing.
Yeah.
And he's been right. I mean, he's been dead wrong, you know. I mean, a lot of it, when you look at a trailer, is complete, you know, speculation and stuff like that. But, I mean, he does a really good job, and she's the one, like, I love it, but she's the one that she knows. I feel like I retain more of it, but she knows so much more about it. Like, she's watching all these extra videos.
That's how,
like,
I'm that guy. I'm that guy as well. Victoria is like, we should rewatch it because I don't even know if I know all of the characters' names in it. And when I watched the first season, I don't know, many years ago, I watched it alone, and I really liked it, but I didn't continue on because I didn't have HBO at the time. So I watched the first season, and I was like, that's really cool, but I was only watching it so superficially, just like watching it like I would watch anything.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole other next level to the fandom, you know?
Like, when you watch the show and that's all you're doing is watching the show, it's like from Titanic, you know, that the iceberg that sticks out of the water just a little bit. But delving in deeper, like watching these YouTube videos and different things like that, there's so much more here at the bottom, because it does go into more detail about the lore, like how things work, you know, talking about the gods and everything like that, because, you know, they don't really ever go too deep into the religion, you know, like the Lord of Light and stuff like that. You don't, you know that, you know, John's been touched by fire and, you know, different things. I mean, a lot of stuff that you can see if you just watch different things like that.
Yeah, right.
Most of the time it's like a 10, 15 minute YouTube video, and there's just so much knowledge in that. So
Emergency Awesome's good. New Rockstars is good. Talking Thrones, Sir Hunt's reviews, Gray Area.
So you do some research, man.
Yeah, I've got the same amount of hours in a day as anybody else, and I choose to spend my time watching speculation videos in between seasons of Game of Thrones.
They're so good. Like, you know, somebody was talking about what if, you know, when the White Walkers come to, you know, the castle where the Starks are in, Winterfell, yeah. What if, like, in the crypts, like, what if the dead Starks come back? Like, you know, you see Arya in the trailer, she's freaking out. You know, there's very few things, like, you've seen her kill, you know, all the Freys, you know, being, you know, Walder Frey and everything like that. Like, there's not much that she's afraid of, but she's running and she looks terrified. I'm thinking, what if it's her mother? Like, what if her mother?
That would be a really cool way of doing Lady Stoneheart in a roundabout way.
Because, you know, in the books, you know, she does come back. So, I mean,
because a headless Ned or a headless Rob would not be, like, how would you even know which one you were looking at? If I'm being honest,
and that's why I think those two, you know, I don't think we're gonna we're gonna see that at all. But like,
what if it was Rob with a fucking direwolf head, where they like stitched on the direwolf head? That would be horrifying.
It'd be terrifying.
It would never happen.
I would not. I think Georgie boy would be like,
yeah,
that's the negative Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, I could definitely see it being, their mother and everything like that.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Because, like I said, it's going to take a lot to scare
Mario. The counter argument to that would be, why would the phrase "give the body to a start" to bring back to actually put in the Crypts of Winterfell instead of just getting rid of her? That said, characters can somehow make it across the entire map in a matter of hours on some episodes. So
I mean, I don't leave anything to like the stretch of the imagination on Game of Thrones, because there's just so much stuff that's happening, and sometimes you think it's only been a couple of hours in the show, but you're like 2 weeks down the road.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, for sure. They've done a pretty good job about making sure that you understand there's a passage of time. Their hair will be different. Their beard will be more grown out. Something like that to let you know.
Yeah. I'm super excited for the new season. It's coming. It's coming. Winter's coming. I'm ready to see what happens when. Well,
that's good. That's positive. I know 2019's been off. We're in a crazy world right now, but I think your 2019's been off to a pretty good start. Is the house done? Are you? I know you moved in.
We actually got to move in the very tail end of 2018. So
okay.
We were moved in by, I think, December 20th. And I want to say maybe the first week of January we had all our furniture and stuff delivered. We all our boxes had been unpacked, and I mean we were ready to go by the first week. Like everything, like we've bought things as we've gone. Like we had to get a water hose, and then you got to get a water hose holder.
Yeah, of course.
All this little stuff that you just don't think about until you have a house. Like because I'm like. She's like, well, we need to get a water hose. I'm like, why do I need to get a water hose? She's like, well, we got to spray off the front porch. And I was like, oh. I was like, okay. And then she was like, we bought the water hose. And then she was like, you know what? We need a place to put the water hose. I was like, we should get a water hose holder. I was like, why do we need a water hose holder? And she's like, because it looks dumb just sitting there on the ground. I'm like, whatever. So now we have a water hose holder.
So, to me, like, you and Derek and Zach, all you guys that are in the Nerd Cave Network, you seem like you got your shit together. Do you feel like it? Like, do you?
I don't. No matter how.
I don't know what that's like.
No matter how much you have your together, it never really like there's always something that you're like, okay, I'm gonna have my stuff together when I have this. And then you get that, but there's always something else that you could be doing. It's like I feel like it's a stepping stone. You get one thing, then you're like, okay, it feels good to get this thing, but there's always something else that you got to do.
Well, in the way that grind like keeps us advancing.
Yeah.
But also at a time, do you think that? Well, I guess the pursuit of happiness in itself is a positive thing, but do you think that constant need for, like, something more does it help us? Does it, like...
I think it drives us.
Yeah, okay.
Because you always, always strive to be better. And, in the market that we're in, pop culture, podcasts and YouTube, it's always... striving to do better, whether it's better quality videos, your sound, or different shows. Kind of like life. You're just trying to, progress. Like you're trying to, become a better person all around and everything like that. Does owning your first house make you a better person? No, but does it make you appreciate things more? Yeah, like I said, and all it is life is a journey. There's many times, like, I mean, you tell me a year and a half, 2 years ago that I'd own a house, I'd be like, I'm never grown up. I'm not going to be a grown up enough to own a house. And then, it's all about maturing, but still, enjoying life at the same time.
So what's the change? Just growing older? You think Holly played a real active role in it?
I know, like, I've always been okay with my money. But, you know, meeting Holly, because at the beginning...
there's water in there if you want some, by the way.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
But Holly, when we met, that was the year that Holly was like, I'm getting my life together. With me, my credit score, I was a ghost in the credit system, so I didn't even really have credit. So I saw her, and you know, when you meet somebody, you fall in love, the whole mushy story, you want to be a better person for that person, and that's what, you know, I push the strive. I was a substitute teacher. You know, if you're a substitute teacher,
shout out to the substitute teachers.
If you love your job, good on you. I loved mine, but the pay's not there for what you have to do. And I knew that if I was going to carry on with that job, I would not be able to support myself, to
progress.
And, you know, just kind of things fell in place. I started working at Pen Air. When you work around people and you have to see how they manage your money, you see people who manage their money amazingly, and then you see other people who
you can point. That's fine.
You see people who are not that great, and you're like, okay, I know not to do it like this.
Yeah, that's a good point. Wouldn't even thought about that.
Yeah, and you know, it's actually, you know, I've only been with Pen Air, I think, 2 years and a month now, and you know, I've learned so much, and it's actually been able to help other people. You know, my job is a member advisor, so I'm in the public a lot. I see a lot of people that come to me, and at the PACE branch, I have so many connections with people not people that work for Pen Air, but like my members who come in. There's a lady who will come in and be like, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And it has nothing to do with Pen Air. But she, you know, she's like, "Hey, I need to call the IRS to set up direct deposit to my new account," and I, you know, sit there and help them do it.
Oh, that's cool.
But you know, working there, I've been able to better myself, and Holly did play. Not that I was immature, but I wasn't
as goal oriented.
Yeah,
maybe.
Like,
yeah.
I was okay with, like, you know, just chilling, like, not motivated.
Pragmatically, you gonna do the landscaping and shit, or you gonna hire somebody to do it?
For the first little bit, because we got to get a shed, because I don't want to leave my lawnmower just out, because we don't have anywhere to put it. So for the first little bit, you know, some of my connections that I've built with members at Pen Air, one of the guys that I help out a lot owns a small little lawn care business.
Oh, look at you! So
nice. I'm gonna talk to him and get him and his son to do the yard for.
Oh, he doesn't know yet.
No, but he'll. I mean, he's like I said, he's come in. He's a good guy. He'll do it for me. But you know, talk to him, get that set up, and then probably once we get the shed, I'm gonna go in, because we don't have a huge yard by any means. So I mean, I get a push mower and I can trim hedges and stuff. Like, I'm from Jay, so I'm used to
actually doing some work,
some manual labor.
Yeah. And see, I definitely grew up having to do chores, landscaping. I actually worked as a landscaper for a couple years as a teenager, and I swore that I would never do it again. But that said, like, as a homeowner, and how do you want to spend your money if you're lazy? You can pay out everybody for everything, but if you're managing your money properly, you're going to buy the tools and do it yourself, because over time you're going to end up saving a tremendous amount of money.
I mean, I'm sure for our yard it would probably be about $30 to $50 a month for them to come out, and they probably have to come out, you know, 2 times a month to do it.
Right.
And that's, you know,
it adds up.
I mean, for gamers, that's almost 2 years of Xbox Live.
Yeah.
You know, there's. You know, you gotta be smart with your money, and I think that's something that I've kind of grown into the past couple of years. So. Good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Congratulations. I knew you had been over there. I didn't know if you guys were living out of boxes, if you were still putting.
Surprisingly, I was the more motivated person
to get it all.
Boxes.
Good.
usually, it's Holly. But Holly would look at a box and she'd be like, "Oh, I don't want to do it." But I'm like, "Baby," I'm like, "Let's do one more box before we're done with it for today." She was like, "Okay." We'd do one box, and then the next day she'd be like, "All right." She's like, "We can stop now." Or sometimes it was me, but I was just like, I want to get it done. I want to, when I come home, I have it there and it's done. I don't have to see a box.
Yeah.
But so we got it taken care of pretty quick,
cool.
That's good. Which was nice.
Dude, did you to switch gears here? Nice hard right turn that way. Did you see the Navarre Beach great white shark?
That thing was I'm trying to think of how big it was. I saw it. I can't remember the exact.
9 foot 10 inches. They reeled it in over on Navarre Beach, which is where I grew up at. The last time they caught a great white was like 1963, 1965, something like that, in those same waters. They actually filmed Jaws 2 out there.
I was saying, now Jaws 4 is coming.
Yeah. So I saw the original video. You seemed like you at least saw a chunk of it before, but what I didn't see, I was kind of just looking for some stuff for us to talk about, as if we wouldn't be able to come up with stuff, but I saw... A biologist speaks about great white shark found at Navarre Beach, and it's 2 minutes and 17 seconds. I'm going to check it out because I have no idea why. It doesn't seem like it should have been there.
Yeah, because that's something you don't see in our area a whole lot.
Definitely. In the Gulf. I mean, it's almost like... Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, this is just
800 pounds.
Nearly 60,000 of you watched this video on the News 5 Facebook page, and the sighting has definitely brought some excitement. I guess that's the word. Maybe scared a few people right here to the Gulf Coast.
You ain't lying.
Let's bring in News 5's Brian Clerkley. He spoke to a marine biologist to find out just how rare of an event this was. Brian?
See how wrong my facts were.
That's right, and there were tons of people, there were tons of fishermen up on the pier today to try to see if maybe they can get a look at another great white shark. But I did speak to that marine biologist, and she gave me some insight on why that shark might have appeared here at Navarre Beach. This is cell phone video of the great white shark caught yesterday.
Holy crap.
Navarre Beach Science Station and marine biology teacher Charlene Morrow says this is a rare sight for the area. She says when you think of great white sharks, you generally think of the Pacific and colder waters. But it's possible for the sharks to sneak their way into our neighborhood.
I think the great white shark was off the coast of Navarre Beach because of food. They're looking for a food source, and so we're seeing more and more animals that don't usually come as close to shore more and more in the past few years.
The great white was estimated to be around 700 pounds and 10 feet
All right,
long.
I was 100 pounds off.
He fishes at Navarre
Close
Beach
enough.
all the time, and he hasn't seen anything like that. It's amazing they're out here, and amazing they're crawling around off the beach. So close to land. You never know. The Gulf of Mexico's got weird things to show.
Well, they're not technically out here. This, like I said, the last one was in 1968.
Very isolated incident, and it was crazy to see that they were able to just like walk it out to sea. I know it was exhausted from getting fought with and stuff, but it didn't act out in a way that made it seem like super predatory. It just seemed like a big old fish, you know what I mean?
And I know a lot of people, they're like, sharks get a bad rap because a lot of times that, if you're getting attacked, it's because, it's something, something about like the area, like, there might be fish swimming around and they're trying to eat. So I don't think that they are like vicious by nature, but of course I am no marine biologist by any means.
Yeah.
But, I know we depict sharks, as these terrifying, beast of the water. You got the Jaws, you got, what is it, Deep Blue Sea.
The Meg lately.
The Megalodon, oh my God. I watched like 10 minutes of that movie. I was like, this is...
You had enough, huh?
It's too much. I'm going to go back and see it, but it looked, I was like, yeah. But, they do depict them as the monsters, lurking in the deep, but I think a lot of it's just wrong place, wrong time with it.
Well, and it's not even a lot of that. Like, you'd probably be more likely to get hit by a car, I mean, you'd be way more likely to get hit by a car than attacked by a shark, because they don't report on the times that the person wasn't eaten by a shark. You just pull some random number out of my ass and say 10 million people across the world swim annually during the summertime. There are 30 shark attacks a year across the world. That's pretty good, pretty good odds, you know?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I know when I was younger, I was terrified to go out below my waist because I'd seen Jaws.
I'm still anxious as hell about it. I wanted to ask you, like,
and I mean,
deepest fears. We'll talk about it in a second.
Like, even now, I'm not terrified to go out to the beach, but like, and it's nothing to do with sharks. When you said what's your biggest fear, my biggest fear is drowning.
Oh, really?
What's funny is because I mean I've done lifeguard work in the past. Like I'm a very strong swimmer. But that's still a fear of mine. And I see people in riptides and everything like that. I know how to get out of them, but anything can happen.
So where does it come from? Like, if you had dreams about it, like a lot of people have recurring dreams. Have you ever had anything?
I don't have recurring dreams or anything like that.
Do you ever see somebody almost drown, or you yourself almost drown?
I had, my little brother. I mean, it wasn't that he drowned. We had to do, you didn't have to do CPR, but like as a kid, I just saw how easy it could happen. He was probably 3, and he had one of those kiddie little tube things. That's kind of like the diaper that rides up, but he was leaning over and it just flipped. Oh, yeah. And he had drifted away from where we were in the pool, so he was on the other side of the pool. And, when you're in the water, you're the resistance and you're trying to get there in time. Luckily I was on near the diving board part, so I was able to dive in and get. But like just seeing stuff like that, and I just, seeing it in movies and it just looks like a terrifying way to go, because you're gonna die, and as your lungs, the air runs out, and then you gotta eventually breathe, and then you're just drinking and all that. Like, it's just something that that's intense. Yeah, I think it sounds. It's like people have irrational fears, like cockroaches. I don't fucking like them. Like, I'm not like having nightmares about them, but I don't want one like running up my arm. That'll gross me out. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah, same with spiders. I'm not gonna, I'm not scream or whatever. But I mean, we keep our distance. Right. Correct. And that's like water to me. It is such a powerful element. Yeah. And it's so vast. There's so much more ocean than there is land, and it makes you realize how like vast the ocean is, and there's something about just that void that gives me anxiety. Like open water gives me anxiety. Like, and I mean that's something like no matter how strong you are, like if you're, get pulled out and the next thing you know you're half a mile from land, you're going to be exhausted getting back. And that's where a lot of people, you drowned a lot, is you become so exhausted that you can't stay, because and we probably shouldn't be the ones to give advice like technically about riptides, but like, so there's sandbars, and then when the waves they push in, and then as they pull out, they need a place to go, so they create these small little channels, and that's where the rip current happens, is between the sandbars. So they usually say to just let it take you, and then swim to the left or the right and come back in. You can, it doesn't matter when you start swimming to the right, because typically, unless you're just in a gigantic one, you can swim to either the right or the left. Like, you want to swim perpendicular to the shore. So if you happen to look up and you see the shore, you want to go either to the left or to the right to get out of it. But I mean, it's one of those things. It's not that I'm not scared to go swimming or anything. Right. No. Like that. Same deal. Deal. We are Floridians after all. But I think there's something. In our psyche about it, because we are land-dwelling creatures. I think that these ideas of leviathans and giant sea monsters and even Cthulhu and all these like legendary
underwater sea serpents and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, they are myths born out of why so many sailors got lost at sea, which is probably because storms, but that just shows the ocean swallows you up and you just disappear, and that's it.
And I love the water, but it's just one of those things where, you know, it's kind of like people who are afraid of the unknown. There's so much to the ocean that's unknown. Like the further you get down, they're still finding plants and wildlife that they've never seen before. Yeah. So it leads you to think, what could be down there?
Yeah, the big squids that they found are completely insane, because for the long time they always talked about them, but there was no actual remains, I think, because there's so little like actual bone in them that fossils and remains are hard to find.
Because they just, you know, disintegrate,
turn
down.
into jelly or something. It's a pretty big one. Pretty good sized squid.
I wouldn't want to fight one of those.
Get all tangled up in it. That's a Photoshop job.
That has to be.
Look at that. That would be insane.
Yeah, that's like Godzilla proportion.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, though. There is a lot of stuff that we're still discovering, and the great white shark in Navarre Beach just it shows that it's super unpredictable as far as the way that nature reacts to just like let me see what it's called. As a result of this, I heard that they tagged it, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna track this freaking shark, right?
Yeah,
this is gonna be super cool. So I downloaded Shark Tracker. It's a SeaWorld app, and it kind of sucks, but you can see all of the different sharks swimming around GPS right now, but it also says that it's not pinging like real time. Looks like one's right on top of Tallahassee right now, which is it's kind of weird.
Sharknado's going on down there.
Miss Lily, let's see what she's about. This is from July 13th. She's a bull shark. And then I wonder what the one cruising down the interstate is. Oh, Jimmy Buffett I Don't Know tour. So they've got like a concert, live broadcast. All right. Parrot heads in the house. That's my mom's probably headed that way. Let's see. South Jaw.
Tiger shark. You know, those are the ones that are commonly in the area.
Yeah, and they of all of the shark species that I've heard of, they are one of the more aggressive.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Mako sharks, dude, those things are fast. But yeah, I'm not super experienced with all of it. I've been out surfing and like seen sharks swim by before, and of course it freaks you out. But then watching those guys like again just kind of jumpstart that great white out into the water, it was not concerned with them at all. I think it realized at that point like, oh, I guess I'm not the top of the food chain. This is kind of weird being out of the water and stuff. But that was cool of them to catch and release. They would have gotten in trouble, I think, for hurting the great white, you know?
Yeah. And then
they're protected.
Then you'd have PETA all over you, which they're licking their wounds right now. They're coming after Steve Irwin.
Wait, what happened? I didn't. Okay, let's talk about this real quick.
Okay, so it's like I think it was like a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. Somebody posted something, you know, about Steve Irwin or something like that, and PETA stepped in and they were talking about how somebody would grab a snake or an alligator, like messing with them and stuff like that. I'm like, Steve Irwin always had the best.
He's a national treasure.
And then somebody was like, let's talk about all the euthanizations and stuff that PETA does. And it's like bringing up some of their dirty laundry, and it was just like, you're like, oh. I
had no idea. I gotta look into this.
Yeah, like that's one person you don't mess with is Steve Irwin, because people will come at it. He's a national treasure.
It's whose nation? No, I'm just kidding. He was a little antagonistic to predatory animals.
Oh yeah, like he'd get right up in the face of some of the poisonous, most aggressive animals.
That's what made him awesome, though. Yeah,
I mean, that was a staple of my childhood.
Yeah.
It's him and Jack Hanna's Animal Adventure.
So were you pretty upset when he died?
I can't remember how old I was when he died. Like, it was one of those things where I was like, oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
I didn't,
You weren't devastated.
I didn't hug a pillow and,
right.
sobbed into it.
Stan Lee?
That one hit me pretty hard. Like, I didn't cry, but like when I saw it, I just stopped what I was doing and I was like, dang. because he's given us, especially pop culture people. I mean, I'm
You got
wearing
your Thor shirt
a
on.
Marvel shirt as it is, and him and Jack Kirby and all them, they are the ones who laid the foundation out for all of this. And I know I'm gonna get emotional going to see Captain Marvel probably tomorrow.
Oh, there's gonna be
there's two post-scene credits, and then there's a Stan Lee tribute.
That's cool. Yeah, I think that was one of the biggest ones for me with Stan Lee. I think still to this day, the most profound was Robin Williams, and I can't really explain why, but there was something about that.
That one got me too, like, Robin Williams, Stan Lee, and even
you can say
Michael Jackson at that time, before things came to light even more. But those were the three big like celebrity deaths. Prince was also a big one because, as we talked about before, I'm big into music. I wanted to learn how to play multiple instruments because of Prince, because you see him, he can play.
Oh yeah, great guitar player.
Tons of different instruments too, not only guitar. And that's why I was like, I'm going to strive myself. So I taught myself guitar, I taught myself drums.
What Prince song was the one that locked you in?
I heard Raspberry.
Oh yeah.
Raspberry Beret.
A good song.
And then just Purple Rain, like a lot of his.
My entry point, this is a weird one, was Diamonds and Pearls. Do you know that song?
It's not my favorite Prince song. Like
No, me neither. But it was just the first one I heard, and then I worked backwards.
Yeah, and that was me. People were talking about Purple Rain, and I listened to Purple Rain, and I was like, oh my God, this guy, his vocals are awesome, like his guitar's awesome, and then I've watched some of his live performances. Him and Michael Jackson, like these people were entertainers. And they pushed me to want to be a musician, and still to this day, my favorite halftime show for the Super Bowl was Prince, because Prince went out there and rocked it in a downpour, like it was pouring, raining cats and dogs, and like he was still playing with live electric guitars.
I was gonna say, how they keep everything going.
He could have like died before he had passed away.
That's double jeopardy, man.
Yeah, like to any kind of electrical mishap. But I mean, him and Michael Jackson were both inspirational to me. And then you have Robin Williams, who anytime you were having a bad day and you just needed to laugh, you could turn on Jumanji, or you could turn on Mrs. Doubtfire, or you could turn on all these movies and stuff that would just make you laugh. Like I watched the other day, I think it was one of his last things that he did was RV.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that.
I watched it. I've seen it a couple of times, but it made you stop and think. Someone who brought such joy, and that's why it always seems to be the people who always look like they're having fun. They're always the ones making everybody else laugh. Those are the ones that apparently you need to check on every now and then.
Yeah.
Because, for somebody who made all of us laugh, he was not happy in his own life. And I will say, like, anytime I watch the movie Patch Adams.
It's a good one. Yeah.
Like, that last like 15 minutes of that movie has me so emotional every time I watch it. And it gives you a new meaning now that, everything that happened with him. But
apparently there's like a scene at the end of Night of the Museum 2 or 3. How many of those movies are there?
I want to say it's 2.
Okay, so at the end of part 2, apparently he gives some sort of like farewell. I've never seen the movie before, but taken in the new context, it's like he's saying bye to the audience. This is like one of his last on-screen projects. I don't know, man. I guess like for me with musicians, just throughout, just historically, it's like, yeah, musicians die of drug overdoses. It's what they fucking do. With somebody like Robin Williams, it was shocking in a different kind of way.
Yeah, because I know these people, like the musicians and stuff.
That sounds incredibly insensitive, but it's
true. Like a lot of the musicians, like you know, when somebody dies of heroin, you're like, oh, that sucks. I was like, the writing was on the wall. You could see it. But when it came to Robin Williams, I mean, even Michael Jackson and Prince to, you know, a certain degree. And he was a comedian actor. Was it Jim? No, I can't remember who it was, but he committed suicide too, and he was like a comedic actor. I cannot remember his name. I think he played on Patch Adams too. I think he was the other.
What? I don't know. I'm sure
he
once
was in
we
the
bring
Hunger
it up
Games
on
too. I want to say.
Oh, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. For sure. So
I mean, you just never know. Like,
yeah, drugs get a hold of freaking artists. That's for sure. And then there's also like you said, we look to entertainers for that specific purpose of bringing joy into our lives.
Yeah.
It's very seldom that you take a minute to consider about how those people are doing emotionally. We're so separated from them, or I mean, at least for a long time we were, and now there's this thing where like we know every single intimate detail of our idols' personal lives.
Yeah.
It's broadcast. Like for example, back in the day, you might have heard that Michael Jackson was a child molester. Again, pure conjecture. You might have heard that Michael Jackson was a child molester. And then fast forward 30 years later, and every single case has been brought into light and brought into hyper focus, and it's like, wow, there were some things that really seemed problematic the whole time.
Like what we were talking about, that documentary, Leaving Neverland, that HBO did. Like, as somebody who literally brought me into the music scene was him and Prince, and watching it, and I'm like, how can I listen to a Michael Jackson song? And I know, as you know, a musician or even as a person, you have to take the work of art as it is, and that's what BBC said. The main BBC, they're like, we never ban an artist. We look at their work on its own merit. But like their affiliates, like some like BBC Two and stuff like that, and you know, other places in like New Zealand and other radio stations and stuff like that have banned Michael Jackson from being played. And as somebody who, you know, looked up to Michael and wanted to always be an entertainer like Michael, like Prince and everything like that, I couldn't finish it. I was like, it literally made me sick to my stomach watching it. And that's how a lot of these documentaries are. I know we are now in the day and age where documentaries are cool to watch, which is exciting. You know, like there's the Ted Bundy tapes. You got Abducted in Plain Sight, and you get to look in and see like how this stuff happened. Like Abducted in Plain Sight just literally blew me away with how naive, like how we were talking about.
Idiots. I am so judgmental of those parents.
Like, I try not to judge. I try not to. But I'm just sitting there like, you guys are so stupid. Like, to have your child be abducted by the same person.
Yeah. Or how about to be a straight man and get talked into giving your neighbor a hand job?
Like, Holly was like, if any of your friends... I was like, don't even finish that sentence. I'm like, if any of my friends said, Robbie, I need some relief.
I need to get my nut off bad, bro.
I'm like, you dumb as hell, get out of here. I was like, no. I was like, never once would it cross my mind to do something like that. And he had stuff on both the wife and the husband.
Oh, what a mess.
And I'm just like,
fucking mess.
I'm like, this guy was bad news. Like, you know, don't get me wrong, you know, I like children, like, you know, I feel like I would make a good dad, but I'm never like that way with kids. Like,
no.
that never,
no.
Like, and I don't see how people can even have that in their mind to want to do that with kids.
But good Lord, I mean, think about what Ted Bundy did to corpses. Like, there's some things that defy logic, and maybe that's why we're compelled to watch them, is just because we can't understand it.
And it's literally like I guess the chemical makeup in their brain as to why they have those urges. And it's, like I said, it's weird, but you know, when it comes to these documentaries, we watch them anyway. Like, I love crime TV. You know, Criminal Minds, CSI, NCIS, like all these super crime dramas. Like, you know, as a kid watching Criminal Minds, I was like, I want to be an FBI behavioral profiler.
It'd be pretty cool.
Just to get into, like, they have to understand, you know, a serial killer on their most basic level. And it's just crazy, and we get to see all these different documentaries that bring stuff to light, like the Ted Bundy tapes. You know, we live in the city, if you don't know where we live.
Good call.
We live in the city where Ted Bundy was caught. And, you know, I actually just found out today that Holly's mom, potentially, she's not 100% sure, but she ran into Ted Bundy.
Crazy.
She's like, yeah, a man in a yellow Volkswagen Beetle. She said, like, something on the how they described the vehicle had something weird with it. That same bug had something wrong with it, and he was asking her how to get to a place, and she couldn't hear him, so she went up closer to him, and he like reached out for her, and she took off.
Holy crap!
Like, you know, I found that out today. Like, I mean, just these crazy things.
We're gonna have to carry this conversation on again sometime. I bet Derek's probably knocking on the door.
Oh wow, it is 3 o'clock.
Look
That's
at that.
probably him.
All right, well, hell yeah, dude. Thank you for stopping by. This was
always fun.
Too bad we had to end on murder porn.
I know, right?
Next time, we're going to talk about our favorite flavors of ice cream. You guys stick around. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to click that little thumbs up button. And until next time, and on behalf of both me and Robbie Rawls, be terrible.